This might be the most important video you ever watch about trading psychology and trading strategy, because I'm about to show you why we've never found a consistent profitable system and why mine has a 90% win rate. And no, it's not because of some secret indicator or institutional model you haven't learned yet. It's much deeper, something that controls every single trading decision you make. I'm not talking about generic mindset stuff. I'm talking about how the way your strategy is built directly determines your psychology. And if you get this wrong, no amount of mindset work or psychology books will ever help you. So let's get into it. Now, I want you to remember this quote. Write it down, put it on your wall, tattoo it on your forehead if you need to, but I want you to remember this quote for the rest of the video. Whatever isn't objective is subjective, and whatever is subjective is subject to your emotions. This one line explains why 90% of traders fail. Your strategy doesn't suck. It's just not objective enough. So what does objective actually mean? It means not influenced by personal feelings or opinions. In other words, you should trade the exact same way whether you just broke up with your girlfriend or you just hit your first 10K month. You should be able to take an entry on your worst day exactly the same as you would on your best day. Now, on the other hand, we have subjective, which means influenced by personal feelings or emotions. And most strategies have too much of this. And you'll understand how this connects later on in the video, but just remember these two words. Now, here's the problem. Most strategies are built backwards. They start from a concept, like fair value gaps. But what you've done now is you've opened up a Pandora's box. What do you mean fair value gaps? Where? Which time frame? Is it an inverse fair value gap? When you say fair value gap, when you say a concept, you open up a bunch of other questions connected to that concept. You see what you've created here? You've created infinite subjectivity. And every single one of these unanswered questions becomes an entry point for your emotions to sneak in. Because what is not clearly answered will be up to interpretation. Let's take where, for example. Now, this could change depending on your day. So here's what happens next. So you have a concept, and each unanswered rule for that concept becomes a question. And each question is open to interpretation. And then when it's open to interpretation, the emotions will dictate, and that will then result in inconsistency. Because if it's up to interpretation, your emotions will dictate that. So one day you might be feeling this way, and the other day we might be feeling that way. And that will change how you trade, which it shouldn't. By far, the number one reason people are inconsistent is because of emotions. They let their emotions creep in, and they're way too emotional when taking trades. One day you're confident, so you take a trade early. One day you're scared, so you hesitate and miss it. One day you lose 2 trades, so you tighten stop loss out of fear. And then one day you win a trade, so you get greedy and over leverage on the next one. Technically, it's not your strategy that is inconsistent, you are. Because your strategy leaves too much room for you to decide things emotionally. That's why people think they have a psychology problem, but they don't. They have a design problem. Their strategy is not designed in the right way. Because if your system requires you to decide too much, that's not a system. It's a suggestion. Now, how do we fix this? Your goal as a trader is to turn your strategy into a decision machine. Every single what if question needs an answer before you trade. So instead of thinking during live charts, you're executing a checklist. Now, let's take the previous example of a fair value gap. Well, where do you enter in the fair value gap? You don't know. What time frame? What session? Now, these can be answered, but if they're not answered, they will be up for interpretation. And if they're up for interpretation, your interpretation will change based on how you feel that day. So it's way too subjective. Now, with the compensation play, with the comp play, everything is clear. There's no room for interpretation. There's no room to think, should I do this, should I do that? Everything is clear cut. Where? Double cross Omer entry. Which time frame? 15 minutes, 30 minutes. Session, New York, London, right? Everything is answered. So you know exactly what to do when the entry model shows up. Think of a good strategy like an IKEA furniture. You don't feel like putting a screw here. You just do what the manual tells you to. And that's what your strategy should be. Plug and play. If you ever find yourself thinking, should I enter here? Throw that strategy out of the window. That question should never exist. You should know immediately, yes or no, nothing in between. Because emotions live in the maybe. Let's visualize this. Every trading strategy has 2 zones, an objective zone and a subjective zone. The bigger your objective zone, the less emotion can affect you. The bigger your subjective zone, the more emotional noise you'll experience. Because emotions live here in the subjective zone. Whatever is objective, you can't argue against, right? It doesn't matter what your interpretation is. You have to do what is said. But when it's subjective, that's when you can start and tweak it, and when it differs from day to day. And that's where emotions sneak in. Emotions live here, not here. So you want to make this part of your strategy as big as possible. Now, the strategy will never be 100% objective. There will always be things that are unclear at times. But you want to make sure that as many questions as possible for the strategy and for the entry model is answered. You want to make sure that everything is written down and objective, because that's how you avoid being subjective and then being affected by emotions. So when you're backtesting or journaling, for example, don't just look at win rates. Ask yourself, how much of this strategy depends on me feeling confident to take a trade? If the answer is a lot, it's not a strategy. It's gambling disguised as trading. Here's a rule I live by. If you ever catch yourself thinking, should I enter here? You've already lost, because that thought means your system isn't clear enough. You have room to think if you should enter there. There shouldn't be any because leads to yes or no, and that's subjective. You should already know yes or no immediately. And this hesitation isn't about fear. It's about lack of clarity. And that's why I spent over 2.5 years developing my system. Not to find perfect entries, but to build a structure that leaves zero room for interpretation. Every single one of my plays, the no-wick play, the flip play, the compensation play, has clear and measurable rules. They're not based on gut feeling, they're based on data. The candles either meet the criteria or they don't. That's why me and some guy in South Dakota will take the exact same trade and get the same results. Because the setup doesn't care who's behind the screen. It's objective. And when you trade objectively, you automatically trade emotionally less. So here's a takeaway. Most traders spend years looking for the best setup. What they should be looking for is the clearest setup, because emotions can't survive in clarity. They only exist in confusion, hesitation, and interpretation. The moment your strategy becomes fully objective, you'll stop overthinking, you'll stop chasing trades, and you'll stop self-sabotaging. And then you'll finally start trading like an algorithm. And that's where consistency begins. All right, everybody. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching it. This is a very important concept for me because this is what helped me become profitable. And this is the singular thing that made the biggest change in my trading consistency. So if you want to work with me and my team one-on-one, we will teach you the strategy, we'll teach you how to trade objectively and how to just follow rules and achieve consistent profitability, then there's a link in bio for that. Go fill that form and see if you're a good fit. But yeah, if you actually pay attention to this video in the right way, this will be the most important video you will ever watch on trading psychology and strategy, because those things go hand in hand. People think that strategy and psychology are two different things. They're not. They go hand in hand. Some strategies allow you to have better psychology, while other strategies allow you to have worse psychology. And that is up to how objective the strategy is. So always remember that. All right, I'll love you and leave you. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and stay tuned for the next videos. Peace out.